Have you ever walked into your garden, excited to see healthy vegetables, flowers, or fruit trees, only to discover that the leaves are curling, the new shoots look twisted, and tiny insects have completely covered your plants? At first glance, the damage may seem insignificant. After all, the insects are incredibly small. Many gardeners assume they can simply ignore them for a few days. Unfortunately, that's exactly how a minor problem turns into a full-scale infestation. Aphids are among the fastest reproducing garden pests in the world. Under favorable conditions, a single female can produce dozens of offspring without even needing to mate. Within a matter of weeks, a few insects can become thousands, spreading from one plant to another and weakening an entire garden. The good news is that you do not need harsh chemical pesticides to stop them. In fact, many experienced gardeners have moved away from chemical sprays altogether. They rely on simple, natural techniques that protect vegetables, flowers, fruit trees, beneficial insects, pets, and the environment while still eliminating aphids effectively. In today's video, you'll discover exactly why aphids appear, how they damage your plants, why some popular home remedies fail, and the proven chemical-free methods that consistently produce excellent results. By the end of this video, you'll know how to stop an infestation before it gets out of control and how to keep aphids from returning throughout the growing season. Let's begin by understanding the enemy. Aphids are tiny soft-bodied insects that feed by piercing plant tissue and sucking out sap. Although individual aphids measure only a few millimeters long, their feeding causes damage far beyond their size. There are hundreds of aphid species around the world. Some prefer vegetables, while others attack roses, fruit trees, peppers, cucumbers, tomatoes, beans, lettuce, cabbage, herbs, berries, or ornamental flowers. Fortunately, regardless of the species, the methods used to control them naturally are almost exactly the same. One of the reasons aphids become such a serious problem is their incredible rate of reproduction. Unlike many insects that require mating before producing offspring, many aphid species reproduce through a process called parthenogenesis during much of the growing season. This means females can produce live young without males. Even more remarkable, the young aphids begin feeding almost immediately after birth. Within a week or two, they can already start producing offspring themselves. This creates overlapping generations that multiply at an astonishing speed. A colony that seems insignificant on Monday can completely cover tender shoots just a couple of weeks later. That's why early detection is one of the most powerful tools any gardener has. But why exactly are aphids so harmful? The first problem is simple. Every aphid removes valuable sap from the plant. Plant sap contains water, sugars, minerals, amino acids, and other nutrients needed for healthy growth. When hundreds or thousands of aphids feed continuously, the plant loses resources faster than it can replace them. As a result, new leaves become smaller. Young shoots become weak. Flower buds may fail to open. Fruit production decreases. Overall growth slows dramatically. Young seedlings are especially vulnerable because they have very limited reserves. Sometimes an infestation that would merely weaken a mature plant can completely kill a seedling. The second problem is deformation. Because aphids feed on tender new growth, leaves often curl, twist, wrinkle, or become distorted. Gardeners sometimes mistake these symptoms for nutrient deficiencies, heat stress, or disease. However, when curled leaves hide clusters of tiny insects underneath, aphids are almost always responsible. The third problem is something many beginners never notice. As aphids feed, they excrete a sticky sugary substance called honeydew. This sticky coating quickly covers leaves, stems, and even nearby objects. At first, honeydew may not seem dangerous. However, it creates the perfect surface for black sooty mold to develop. The mold itself doesn't invade plant tissue, but it blocks sunlight from reaching the leaves. Less sunlight means less photosynthesis. Reduced photosynthesis means slower growth and weaker plants. In severe cases, entire branches become coated with a black film that dramatically reduces plant vigor. The fourth problem is even more serious. Many aphid species can transmit plant viruses. As they move from one plant to another, they may carry viral diseases that no spray can cure. Once a plant becomes infected with certain viruses, removing the aphids alone may not solve the problem. Preventing large aphid populations therefore also helps reduce the spread of disease. Another fascinating part of the aphid story involves ants. Have you ever noticed ants climbing plants covered with aphids? This isn't a coincidence. The two insects often have a remarkable relationship. Ants feed on the sweet honeydew produced by aphids. In return, many ant species actively protect aphid colonies from predators. Some ants even carry aphids to fresh shoots where food is plentiful. Others chase away ladybugs and other beneficial insects that would normally control the infestation. Naturally. Because of this partnership, gardeners who only remove aphids without addressing ant activity sometimes find that the infestation returns again and again. We'll discuss how to break this cycle later in the video. Weather also plays a major role. Aphids usually reproduce fastest during mild temperatures with abundant tender growth. Heavy rain can temporarily reduce populations by washing insects off leaves. Strong winds may also disrupt colonies. However, warm, dry weather often allows populations to explode unless natural predators keep them under control. This explains why one year your garden may experience almost no aphids, while the following season they seem to appear everywhere. Many gardeners assume aphids attack only unhealthy plants. This isn't entirely true. Healthy plants can absolutely become infested. However, overly fertilized plants often produce soft, lush growth that aphids find especially attractive. Applying excessive nitrogen fertilizer may unintentionally create exactly the kind of tender new shoots these insects prefer. Balanced fertilization is therefore an important part of long-term prevention. Before we start discussing natural treatments, it's important to understand one simple principle. There is no magic spray that permanently eliminates aphids forever. Successful gardeners combine several techniques. They monitor plants regularly. They encourage beneficial insects. They remove heavy infestations early. They strengthen plant health. And they repeat treatments when necessary. This integrated approach consistently produces better results than relying on a single remedy. Now that you understand why aphids spread so quickly and how they damage your plants, it's time to learn how to recognize an infestation before it becomes a disaster. Early warning signs, common mistakes, and prevention. One of the biggest mistakes gardeners make is waiting until aphids are visible from across the garden. By that point, the colony may already contain hundreds or thousands of insects. The secret to easy aphid control is catching them early. So what should you look for? The very first sign is often not the insects themselves. Instead, it's a change in the plant. Check the newest growth first. Aphids prefer tender, soft tissue because it's easier to pierce and contains abundant nutrients. Look for leaves that begin to curl inward, new shoots that appear twisted or distorted, flower buds that stop developing normally, sticky residue on leaves or stems, ants repeatedly climbing a plant, tiny clusters of insects on the undersides of leaves. The underside of leaves is especially important. Aphids often hide there where they're protected from direct sun, rain, and predators. If you gently unfold a curled leaf and find groups of small green, black, yellow, brown, or even pink insects, you've likely found an aphid colony. Many gardeners are surprised to learn that aphids come in different colors. The color depends on the species and sometimes the host plant. Green aphids are common on vegetables. Black aphids often appear on beans and certain flowers, and other species may look reddish, orange, or pale yellow. Regardless of the color, the control methods are essentially the same. Now let's talk about a question many viewers ask: why do aphids keep coming back? In most gardens, the answer involves one or more of these common mistakes. Mistake number 1: ignoring the first few aphids. A gardener notices 3 or 4 aphids and decides to deal with them later. A week passes. Then, another. Suddenly the plant is covered. Because aphids reproduce so rapidly, early action is far easier than late intervention. Removing a small colony can take seconds. Removing a large infestation may take weeks. Mistake number 2, using too much nitrogen fertilizer. Plants need nitrogen to grow, but excessive nitrogen creates lush, soft, juicy growth that aphids love. If your plants are producing extremely tender shoots and repeatedly attracting aphids, review your fertilizing routine. A balanced fertilizer is often a better choice than heavy nitrogen feeding. Mistake number 3, spraying only once. Many natural treatments kill or remove the aphids present at the time of spraying. However, eggs, hidden insects, or newly arrived aphids may remain. Successful control usually requires repeated treatments every few days until the infestation is gone. Mistake number 4, forgetting about ants. Remember the relationship between ants and aphids. If ants are actively protecting aphids, beneficial insects may struggle to reduce the population. Controlling ant traffic around heavily infested plants can dramatically improve your results. Mistake number 5, spraying in the wrong conditions. Even natural sprays can damage plants if applied during intense midday sun or extreme heat. Water, droplets and certain homemade solutions may increase the risk of leaf burn. The safest times to treat plants are early morning or late afternoon when temperatures are cooler. Now let's focus on prevention, because preventing aphids is much easier than fighting a massive infestation. Prevention strategy 1, inspect plants regularly. Spend a few minutes every couple of days checking the newest leaves, growing tips, and flower buds. Early detection is your best defense. Prevention strategy 2, encourage beneficial insects. Ladybugs, lacewings, hoverflies, and some tiny parasitic wasps are natural aphid predators. A single ladybug larva can consume dozens of aphids in a day. To attract beneficial insects, grow flowering plants such as dill, fennel, coriander, alyssum, marigolds, yarrow, cosmos. These flowers provide nectar and pollen that help beneficial insects survive and reproduce. Prevention strategy 3, avoid overcrowding. Dense plantings reduce airflow and make it easier for aphids to spread unnoticed. Proper spacing improves air circulation and makes inspections easier. Prevention strategy 4, keep plants healthy. Stressed plants are often more vulnerable to pests. Water consistently, mulch when appropriate, and provide balanced nutrition. Prevention strategy 5, remove heavily infested growth. If one shoot or leaf is completely covered with aphids, pruning it off can instantly reduce the population and prevent further spread. Now that we understand prevention, it's time to move on to the treatments that gardeners really want to know about. The most effective natural methods that really work. Now we've reached the part that most gardeners have been waiting for. If you've searched online for aphid remedies, you've probably found dozens of suggestions. Some work very well. Others are only partially effective, and a few are little more than gardening myths. The key to successful aphid control is understanding that no single treatment is perfect for every situation. A light infestation requires a different approach than a plant that is completely covered with insects. Let's start with one of the simplest and surprisingly one of the most effective methods. Method 1. Use a strong jet of water. It may sound too simple to work, but a firm stream of water is often enough to remove most aphids from a plant. Because aphids are tiny and soft-bodied, they cling weakly to leaves and stems. A strong spray knocks them to the ground, where many cannot return to the plant. Pay special attention to the undersides of leaves, young growing tips, flower buds, tender stems. Spray thoroughly rather than quickly passing over the plant. This method works especially well on sturdy plants such as tomatoes, peppers, roses, fruit shrubs, and many ornamentals. However, Avoid using excessive pressure on delicate seedlings or fragile flowers, as they can be damaged more easily than the aphids themselves. Repeat every 2 or 3 days until the population declines. Many gardeners are surprised by how effective this simple technique can be when started early. Method 2. Insecticidal soap. Soap sprays are among the most trusted natural solutions. The soap dissolves the protective outer coating of soft-bodied insects, causing them to dehydrate. The important point is that ordinary household detergents are not always safe for plants. Instead, use pure liquid Castile soap or a soap specifically labeled for use on plants. A common homemade mixture is 1 liter of water, 1 to 2 teaspoons of pure liquid soap. Shake gently before use. Spray directly onto the aphids, making sure the solution reaches every colony. Remember that soap only works where it makes direct contact. If the spray misses the insects, it cannot kill them. After several hours, many gardeners rinse the plant with clean water, especially during hot weather. Always test the mixture on a small section of the plant first and wait 24 hours before treating the entire plant. If no leaf damage appears, continue with the full application. Method 3. Neem oil. Neem oil has become one of the most popular natural garden products for good reason. Extracted from the seeds of the neem tree, it interferes with insect feeding and development while also helping control several other garden pests. Neem works more slowly than soap but provides longer-lasting protection. Mix the product according to the manufacturer's instructions. Because neem oil separates from water, shake the sprayer frequently during application. Cover all plant surfaces evenly, especially the undersides of leaves where aphids gather. Apply during the evening or early morning to reduce the risk of leaf burn and to protect pollinating insects that are active during the day. Method 4. Remove aphids by hand. For small infestations, this method is surprisingly practical. Wear gardening gloves. Gently wipe the aphids from stems and leaves using your fingers or a soft cloth. You can also use a damp paper towel to remove entire colonies. Although it may seem slow, removing a few dozen aphids today prevents hundreds from appearing next week. Method 5. Prune severely infested growth. Sometimes one shoot is covered with hundreds of aphids. Instead of trying to save that single stem, prune it off. Dispose of the infested material away from the garden rather than leaving it on the ground nearby. This instantly removes a large portion of the population. The plant can usually replace one damaged shoot far more easily than it can recover from thousands of feeding insects. Method 6. Garlic spray. Garlic has long been used as a natural garden treatment because of its strong sulfur compounds and pungent odor. While garlic doesn't always kill aphids directly, it can discourage them from settling on treated plants. To prepare a simple garlic spray, blend several cloves of garlic with water. Allow the mixture to steep overnight. Strain it carefully. Dilute if necessary and spray the leaves thoroughly. Because homemade recipes vary widely, always test on one leaf first before treating the entire plant. Method 7. Pepper spray. Some gardeners also use hot pepper solutions. Capsaicin can irritate soft-bodied insects and discourage feeding. However, pepper sprays must be used carefully. Avoid getting the mixture into your eyes or onto your skin. Never spray on windy days. As with any homemade treatment, test a small section first. Method 8. Introduce natural predators. Nature already has its own aphid control system. Ladybugs are perhaps the best-known example. Both adult ladybugs and their larvae consume large numbers of aphids. Green lacewing larvae are even more impressive. They're sometimes called aphid lions because of their appetite. Hoverfly larvae also feed heavily on aphids while the adults help pollinate flowers. Rather than trying to eliminate every insect from your garden, encourage these beneficial species by planting nectar-rich flowers